Welcome. We bid you welcome. John Clauser, Johnny Metal, the Metal Dad, coming to you from my music corner of the world with my co-captain on a show. We still have named. We've done this Wasp Wednesday all this time, but it's not Wasp Wednesday. We need to come up with a, you know, there's got to be a name for this duo. We got to come up with something here. But John, the Music Nut, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, brother. How about you?
Oh man, I tell you, it just feels weird not talking about Wasp all of a sudden. We did
A
this
little
we
bit,
did
yeah,
this
it does.
series for like 5 months, and
Mhm.
and now we're branching out into totally different topics. So we thought today our first kind of branching out topic, we're just gonna talk about some live albums that are
Mhm.
favorites of ours. Maybe not necessarily our top three, or are they? But because God knows there's a lot of good live albums out there. So we thought let's just talk about some live albums, and we're gonna keep this really super loose, and we're just gonna have some fun. So y'all in the comments and on live chat as you're watching this, hey, please talk about your favorites in the comments below.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
share, subscribe. I'm gonna get rid of all the YouTube lingo right here at the top of the show, just because hey, you know what to do with all this stuff. So I'm going to hand it to John, the Music Nut here. Let him start with his first of his three picks.
Oh, we're gonna go three. I thought we were gonna go
Three?
five. You want
Oh
to go
well,
three
hey,
or five?
we could do five.
Oh, okay. I have
Let's
five
let's let's do five. Let's do five.
in honor of the
Bundy,
late great
King
King
Kong
Kong
Bundy.
Bundy.
That's
Gonna
right.
pay you stealing money, Bundy. That never gets old.
Never gets old. I
All
met him.
right.
I met Bundy once at a card show at a
Oh
mall,
yeah.
and I had this homemade T-shirt that somebody sent me. It was the JWO, the Jobbers World Order. He saw my shirt. He's,
Oh,
oh
nice.
man, I wish I could belong to that. Guy took a crappy Polaroid, and you can't really. It's so blurry, but it was 1998, so go figure. Long before the days of iPhones. But anyway,
Yeah,
all
and
right,
10 years after he was dropping elbows on midgets.
that's right. That's right. It's all right.
Uh,
The
Poor little
first
beaver. All
The
right.
first,
Rest
yes.
in peace.
All right,
Rest in
first of
peace,
your
King
picks.
Kong Bundy. Rest in peace, little beaver.
That's right.
And my first pick. Okay, just to let y'all know, just to give you a little information before I start. Uh, I'm my foundation, a lot of it was heavy metal. A bigger part of my foundation was classic rock. And you're going to hear some choices here that you've heard before. I didn't really reinvent the wheel on my choices. These albums really mean a lot to me, and they've meant a lot to me for a long time. The first one I'm going to choose is someone that I saw in 1994, and it's Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band, and the album is Live Bullet. Now, this is the album that broke Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band in the US. They had several albums out before this. They had, varying degrees of success. They were really big in Michigan, really big in the Midwest where they came from. Um, and a fantastic reputation as a live band. And they put this baby out after they had maybe 7 or 8 studio albums, and they knocked it out of the park. Now, this album is best known for Turn the Page, which was played a lot on album oriented rock AOR for a long time. A lot of people knew Bob Seger's hits. Oh, and Turn the Page, right? Traveling Man, It's a Beautiful Loser, I think is dynamite. It's one of the great twofers in rock,
Mhm.
period. I mean, it's two songs that should always be played together, like they should always play Heartbreaker and Live and Love and May by Led Zeppelin together, like they should always play Bring It On the Heartbreak and Switch 525 by Def Leppard together. That's how I feel about this twofer. There are a lot of covers on here. Nutbush City Limits was best. It was most popularized by Ike Tina Turner.
Mm-hmm.
Get Out of Denver, I think, was the same thing. I've Been Working was an old Van Morrison song. The original is a killer. This is a stunning version. Bo Diddley on here is amazing. This shows you the greatness that was the Silver Bullet Band. They don't get the love that they should. You always hear about the E Street Band for Bruce Springsteen, and they're fantastic too. Or the Heartbreakers with Tom Petty, also fantastic.
Mhm.
But the Silver Bullet Band were insanely good. And there's a band I'm going to talk about next. There was actually two guys who would later join the Silver Bullet Band after the band that I'm going to talk about went on hiatus. But oh, so much great stuff on here. You have Ramblin' Gamblin' Men, which was the first hit that Bob Seger had with the System, I believe, back in '68 or so. That was a
Okay.
top 20 hit back in the day. There's a great live version here. Kathmandu, that was an AOR staple. That superb version on here. Let It Rock is great. Looking Back, Jody Girls, little mellow and a bit of a tearjerker, but all of this is killer. UMC is awesome. Yeah. Live Bullet, Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band. Fantastic live album from 1976. And then right after that, they released Night Moves, and the world opened for them.
The world was his oyster.
Yes, it was. And it deserved to be because,
Yep.
wow, what a fantastic songwriter and amazing singer, too.
Yep. That's a good start.
Thank you.
Good start. So I decided I'm going to kind of go in chronological order of how of some of my choices today. I think that's how I'm going to kind of look at this. So my first pick, this is actually something I think I've mentioned on another program some time ago. I think it was on Grant's Rock Warehouse, or maybe Bicycle Legs or Rock Daydream Nation. I'm not really sure. The mind gets kind of, yeah. Anyway, and this album only features about half the set. I had to look the set up, and I actually found it on setlist.com. So I'm very thankful for setlist.com. But I was introduced to this band as a kid, and because my brother, being older than I was introduced to a lot of classic rock stuff back in the day. And he had this particular album plus about 3 or 4 others by this band. And this was a live concert taped at Carnegie Hall up in New York City, I believe it was around in May of '71. We're talking the James Gang.
Oh, excellent.
The James Gang live in concert. Now, and yes, this is a original master, one of those mobile fidelity versions that Grant likes to go on about. But anyway,
right.
This only has like half the set. This album only features 7 songs. But if you look the setup, there's 15 songs on this thing. Okay, so the show starts off with Funk 49, which was on Rides Again, which went into Ashton Park. Then you have this starting, which is the song Stop, which was an old Howard Tate cover, which I believe is on I think the first or second album. Albert King's version of You're Gonna Need Me, which was the second song on this album. Then Take a Look Around, third song on the CD, fifth song on the track. From there, it goes into a song called White Man, Black Man. Thanks, which is from Rides Again.
Yes.
Garden Gate, also from Rides Again. A song called Again. And let's see. This thing left off Tend My Garden on this set list, which I'm like, oh man. Now it is on this, but yes, the set list leaves off Tend My Garden for some reason. Anyway, from after Again, Ashes, the Rain, and I, which is that somber acoustic song, which they pull Jim Fox off the drums and he's playing one of the guitar parts, and Joe's just going nuts. So you got Dale Peters doing the bass thing. From there, you go into Walk Away, which was the big hit, which Joe would be well known for the rest of his own career. A track called Woman. Then you go to Lost Woman, which is the on this is like an 18-minute long. This is where everybody gets to solo, even them making all their goofy noises toward the end of the thing, which
Nice.
is hilarious to listen to. Of course, Lost Woman being a Yardsburg cover. The show closes out with a cover of Johnny B. Good, and then they do The Bomber, which has Closet Queen, Bolero, Cast Your Fate to the Wind. So that's what this set. Now, again, for whatever reason, set list leaves off Tend My Garden, so I'm not really sure why. But anyway, I love this album. This is just it's I just I love listening to the stripped down version of Tend My Garden. Um, Ashes, the Rain, and I is just amazing. Joe Walsh is just a beast. He was just playing, his playing was on fire on this album. Jim Fox is a fantastic drummer, and him and Dale Peters just were tight as a tourniquet. So yeah, James Gang live and in concert, stupendous. If there is a bootleg of the whole show out there, I'd love to hear it. So there you go.
Ah, another CD I have to pick up. I don't own it. I've owned Rides Again on cassette since high school.
Yeah.
And that's very heavy on Rides Again.
Mm-hmm.
Rides Again is wonderful. Oh
Yeah,
my
love
gosh.
album.
I wait as you were going through the songs, I'm like, oh,
Yep.
where's Closet Queen? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the Bomber rather. But
Yeah.
Closet Queen's the first part of it. I'm like, where's the Bomber? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta pick that up.
Yep.
Oh, nice. Excellent. Oh, I
Excellent
love
choice.
it.
Yes.
I
All right.
love it. All right. So this is my favorite band, Little Feat. I discovered Little Feat in 1988 when Hate to Lose Your Lovin' was getting played heavy on Rock 107. Later on, the title song from the album that came out that year, Let It Roll, was getting played. And you heard One Clear Moment a lot as well, which was the second track on the album. And I really loved that album, and I had a friend that was kind of a mentor to me for music when I was younger. And by that point, he was no longer my neighbor anymore. He lived in the next town over. And I hadn't seen him too much after that. But when I did run into him, I said, what do you think of Little Feat? And he goes, they're different, but you'd probably like them. Keep in mind, this man introduced me to Metal Church. He introduced me to Megadeth. He introduced me to Merciful Fate. He introduced me to a lot of great metal. He took me to my first two concerts.
Okay.
But he knew about Little Feat. He also sold me my first Rush cassette. He sold me Exit Stage Left for like $2, right?
Okay.
But he said, you might like Little Feat. And I really trusted his opinion. So I got really heavy into Little Feat for many years, took a little break, got into them heavier for the next 20 some years after, and they've become my favorite band. But the album I'm going for, and I bought this in high school, was Waiting for Columbus. This is the cassette. This is sublime. Fantastic live album. I've loved this album so much. Here's the single CD. Now, on the single CD, they cut a few songs off and they put those two songs on the CD version of Last Record album. But fortunately, when they put the album back out as a double CD, they returned those songs back to it. They put the song list back to the way they played them that night, and they added a lot of extra tracks that didn't make the original album. And then last year, they put out an 8-disc box set.
Ooh.
And this is it right here.
Oh, wow.
This is the original album on 2 CDs and the 3 shows that they recorded for the album in their entirety.
Wow. That's awesome.
It is. It is a fantastic collection. Now, Little Feat, this is the Little Feat that most people know and love. This is when Lowell George was their primary songwriter. But by the time Waiting for Columbus came out, he was giving up the reins a little more to Paul Barrere, who we he passed away a few years ago. He actually died the night before I saw them in one of the times I saw him in Wilkes-Barre in 2019. And Bill Payne was writing a lot of material there. And Bill Payne was their original piano player, and he's there to this day. There's still 3 members of the band that played on this in the band. You still have Bill Payne. You still have the wonderful Kenny Gradney on bass, one of the most underrated bass players, period. And you still have Sam Clayton on vocals and congas and percussion. You had Lowell George here on guitar and most of the lead vocals. You had Richie Hayward on drums. Richie Hayward has played on a lot of great albums as a session musician. Something for John here. He played on Shaken and Stirred from Robert Plant. So
you're right. You're right. I forgot about that. Yes.
Yeah. So Richie Hayward played the drums on here. You had Richie Hayward, Paul Barrere, and Lowell George are no longer with us. Lowell George actually died in 1979. So by the time they came back, Lowell George was already gone. But I was talking to people who knew them, and they said, "Oh, the best stuff's with Lowell George," and that's mostly true. They made some great stuff after too. But this album is sublime. I mean, this is one of those albums where a lot of the songs on here blow away the studio versions. A lot of it was because they had the Tower Power horn section with them.
That always helps.
Oh, yeah. So they brought new life to songs like Rocket in My Pocket, Mercenary Territory, which is probably my favorite song by Little Feat. But you have Dixie Chicken is probably their most famous song. Willin's right behind it. There's excellent versions of that in here. You got wonderful versions of Fat Man in the Bathtub, All That You Dream, Tripe Face Boogie, Day or Night, Spanish Moon. Spanish Moon's another favorite of mine. We all love Spanish Moon, but this is a fantastic album. The 2-disc version, though, is the way to go, I think, because then you get the whole album as it was played, and then you get great versions of One Love Stand, Rock and Roll Doctor, Skin It Back. These were all great deep cuts off of those first 5 albums, I should say. Oh, they also did a Political Blues, which Van Halen later covered on Oh You Wait One too.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So all the great musicians out there, they knew who Little Feat were. Jimmy Page once said Little Feat were his favorite band. When I went to see a Tranquility's Fall Festival last year, Pete Pardo did an interview with Andy Powell from Wishbone Ash. And Andy Powell talked about his love for Little Feat as well. I think I was the only one who yelled, "Yeah!" Just like staring at me, but Little Feat guy here.
Yeah.
But yes, Little Feat are a fantastic band. I've seen them 11 times. It ain't going to stop anytime soon.
Very cool.
They're still out there, still playing. They'll be back out in the fall. And but if you want to start with Little Feat, definitely go for Waiting for Columbus. Find a 2-disc version if you can. The box set is more if you're really deep into it. That costs a little more money, but yeah, Waiting for Columbus, fantastic.
Good place to start. Good. I need to check this out because I think I only know like a couple songs of theirs, and I really just have never gone deep with Little Feat. So I need to do a little investigating with that one. So good stuff.
You know where to come, buddy.
Good stuff.
Thank you.
All right. So the next one I'm going to talk about in my little chronological thing was a band that this one was courtesy more of my sister. She seemed to be a lot more into some more of the more adventurous kind of music, where my brother was into a lot of the good straight up rock and roll. So I got the Fog Hats, not Kansas a little bit, but of course I say that he also got me into Sensational Alex Harvey band too. So I guess and they're kind of out there. But anyway, my sister liked a lot of prog stuff. So she was into Genesis. She was into Supertramp. She had Pink Floyd The Wall, or Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon. That scared the daylights out of me at 4 years old. So stuff like that. So she was into that kind of stuff, but she was also into these other five lads that were very well known in the prog rock dimension. And I'm talking about Yes. And this little, and their first album, Yes Songs, 3 album set. This thing is just a beautiful. I mean, that you have the most well-known lineup of the band right here. John Anderson on vocals, Steve Howe on guitars, the Fish, Chris Squire on bass, Rick Wakeman on keyboards. Most of the tracks have Alan White on drums. There was like 3 that have Bill Bruford. But this is just just a wonderful album. I know they put a big box set out with all kind of like what you were talking about with the where it took all the shows where they put them all on a big box set. I did not pick that up. I probably should have, but I didn't pick that up. But I mean, you have the excerpt from Firebird Suite, so you have something of Rick Wakeman's catalog going on, which goes right into Siberian Cat Through, From Close to the Edge, which was the album they were touring on. Beautiful version of that. Absolutely beautiful. Heart of the Sunrise, epic track from Fragile, great song. Perpetual Change from the Yes album, following up within You and I, again from Close to the Edge. You get the next one, Mood for a Day, which is of course that's Steve's guitar thing from Fragile.
Yes.
You get the excerpts from Six Wives of Henry VIII. So you get, this is Rick Wakeman's kind of solo spot, which then they go right into Roundabout. Everybody knows Roundabout. It's probably, if it's not that song, the only song they know by Yes will probably be Owner of a Lonely Heart. I would rather know Roundabout myself. But anyway, they go to Your Move and All Good People. Again, I just love that sing along. I've seen all good people turn their heads each day, and it sounded great on this version as well. Then you get Chris Squire's turn to solo, going into Long Distance Runaround, into the Fish, where that's extended bass solo from the Fragile album. And then you get Close to the Edge, just immaculate sounding live. It just sounds amazing. And then the album closes off with Yours Is No Disgrace and Starship Trooper. I mean, y'all, it don't get no better than this. This album is just amazing. I mean, the packaging, you just get this.
Oh, nice. I never saw the inside of the vinyl here.
But the back's got all this, and then there's you also have, let's see, where is it here? There's you get a nice little booklet with some pretty cool pictures, like you get these shots of Steve Howe. I'm not gonna go through them all because I'm not gonna be able to show it properly, but just an absolute wonderful live album that I was introduced to in the early 80s as I started getting more into Yes. I was able to get into Fragile, and I think I eventually picked up Drama, which, even though that doesn't have John Anderson or Rick Wakeman, that's an amazing album. I absolutely love Drama.
I do too.
I eventually would pick up Close to the Edge. I think my brother-in-law would have like Relayer, so I think and Going for the One, so I probably dubbed a copy of each of those. And I picked up, when 90125 came out. Sure, I was into that, but I didn't really pick up much else after that so much. But I'll tell you what, 70s Yes is just absolutely untouchable. So I absolutely love Yes songs. I couldn't tell you how much of it's tweaked or anything like that. I'm sure there probably is, but to me, it just sounded so good. I only got to see the band once. Unfortunately, John Anderson was not in the band. It was with John Davison, but John Davison sounds good.
He does.
He sounds really, really good. You had Jeff Downs on keyboards, you had Steve, you still had Alan White was still with us, and Chris Squire was still with us. My wife somehow scored front row tickets for the show. I don't know how she pulled it off, but she did. So, and we both went, and we literally were standing like 5 feet from Chris Squire. So it was good because Chris would be gone from us after about a year and a half later. We saw them in 2013. So we on that tour they did Close to the Edge, Going for the One, and the Yes album in its entirety. So to me that was a great show. It made me really appreciate Going for the One a little bit more. But Yes songs, as far as I'm concerned, you just can't touch that version. That is of the band. That is just the when they were at their absolute peak. So there you go. That's my next pick. Yes songs.
Fantastic selection. I couldn't agree more. I saw that tour, and
You saw the Yes songs tour?
I wish I did. No, I would have been too. No, I saw the 3 album tour that you saw with Sabrina. Um, we that was one of the best shows I've ever seen. I saw Yes 3 times, and the first time I saw him was the 2014. I saw him in 2014, and then Chris Squire passed the next year. Oh, that was fantastic. It was like being in church because everyone was really quiet and then standing ovation after every song, except for a couple songs on Going for the One. But the rest,
Yeah.
which was the lesser known of the 3, but still a very good album.
Oh yeah. I mean,
but
you could tell the audience was waiting for them to play Awaken.
yes,
That was the one they were really waiting for the most off that album. And yeah, boy, that was amazing. That was amazing to watch.
It was. Oh yeah, we had that same thing. I saw him in Bethlehem.
Mm.
Yeah, so the same thing happened there. I'll say one thing about that band. Out of every band I've ever seen live, their fans are so dedicated and bought so much merch. You couldn't buy merch at the Yes show.
Wow.
It was similar to the when I saw Wasp, and I was telling you last year, and there were long lines. That's how it was with Yes, because a lot of them a lot of people at that show grew up on those albums, and you looked, and their hands are full with T-shirts and posters and books and everything, and they're wearing Yes stuff too. They were so dedicated.
Mm-hmm.
But they sounded immaculate when I saw them that
Yeah.
night. That was a fantastic show. It's the best show I ever saw at. It was the Sands Casino back then. Now it's Wind Creek Event Center. I've seen over 50 shows there, and that was the best show I ever saw there.
Nice.
They killed that night. They were amazing. I bought that Yes Songs double CD during the pandemic when I was filling in some gaps.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic live album.
Yes, it is.
Excellent.
Yep.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, I'm not a big prog guy, but Close to the Edge is like the universal best prog album.
Absolutely.
You could probably say that's the best prog live album.
I would agree. I would agree. And I'm not a big prog guy either, but I would definitely say yes to that. Well, no pun intended.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. But insane musicianship, fantastic songwriters, gosh.
Yeah.
Yes album's a little underrated just because of the couple that came after, but oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Excellent choice.
Yep. All right.
All right. Now let me take a swig before I get into what I was going through in 1984.
Yeah.
So this album really blew me away when I was 13 years old. This is Kiss, Alive One. This is my cassette for when I was 13. You have certain albums that they kind of change your life. This was one of them for me, especially as a 13-year-old. Um, and here's the double live CD, the big box they used to sell back then. But what an explosive, exciting live album. I first heard this. There you go.
Mine is from the I don't have it handy. It's from the where they put all of them in one box thing.
Okay. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Like the whole collection of the live albums.
This thing.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. There you go. When they were young and hungry and broke, Kiss were insane live. Insane.
Mm.
I listen to albums like this and it makes me wish I was 10 years older because I could have, if I would have had the chance to see them when I was 14 instead of 4 at the time when this came out in 1975. What an yeah, exactly.
And I could have seen them in my hometown because they played in this little theater called the Roxy in Northampton, Pennsylvania. And this was like right around when Dress to Kill came out.
Right.
I could, if I had been about 10 or 12 years older, I could have gone to that show. Instead, I was 5 years old and probably hadn't even heard the album yet at that point. But please continue.
Thank you. I was in the same boat. They played in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. I grew up 3 miles from Wilkes-Barre, and they played the Comerford Center. And I have friends who were about 10 years older than me who saw those shows, that show, and told me how fantastic they were. But here you got the original Kiss of Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons, Ace Frehley, and Peter Criss. This is such an experience as a live album. They could do no wrong live.
Oh.
Yes, okay. There are overdubs and all that, but it feels like you're there. And if it's anything, most albums are not going to be 100% live. It's just the way it goes. There are instruments that fall out. You have to replace it. You got to sweeten it up because there's going to be mistakes. Not so much the band themselves, but just with the acoustics and the recording. So this is a fantastic live album. If you love early Kiss, this is where you go. To me, this is where you start with Kiss if you're not already a fan, if you've been living in a cave. I mean, where do you start? I mean, yes, they had a long career, but you start with the best stuff and you start with a live one. Superb. Again, just like a Little Feat's Waiting for Columbus, the live versions killed the studio versions. Rock and Roll Night, Exhibit A. I mean, the studio version sounds bubblegum.
I completely, and Exhibit B, Watching You.
Yeah.
That live version of Watching You, absolutely. You hear the hunger and the ferocity in their playing in that song, where you don't get that on the studio version so much, but boy, you hear it on that one. Ooh.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely. Deuce, the opener. One of the great live openers you'll ever hear. Fantastic. It was right into Strutter, right into God. They play these songs with such energy and conviction, and the crowd is into it so much you'd think these were all big hits. I mean, they obviously weren't. I mean, Rock and Roll All Night will become a number 12 hit off of this album. Black Diamond. To this day, those cannons at the end give me chills. I'm getting teared up just talking about Black Diamond. Black Diamond's one of my favorite. It's my favorite song from this album, and it's probably one of my 2 or 3 favorite Kiss songs. Yep. Oh my God, 100,000 Years. You got the drum solo from Peter Criss, and then Paul Stanley coming back out on stage and doing his rapport with the crowd as no one else has ever been able to do.
Nope.
I mean, that's the one thing. He wanted to be the rock and roll preacher. He wasn't his. I mean, say what you want about his voice. He's 71 years old. He's not going to sing like a 21-year-old here. But here, oh my gosh, he had the crowd in the palm of his hands. Spectacular frontman vocalist. Great songwriter, too. He wrote most of the great songs. I mean, Gene wrote some great ones, too. And you had a few from Ace, but wow, the meat of these albums is Paul. So many great tracks here. I mean, Come On and Love Me is fantastic here. I mean, that's excellent. Parasite's fantastic. Rock Bottom is awesome. Cold Gin sounds amazing on here. The whole album. Let Me Go Rock and Roll closes the album. You could hear the crowd all chanting along,
Mm-hmm.
clapping along. It just feels so great.
And it was so good that they extended the song out. Because on Hotter Than Hell, it's like two and some change, and it's done.
Yeah,
Here you get a little extended jam out, and that's great. Yeah.
absolutely. Anyone
Oh,
who's listed, hey, if you list this at number one, I will. Yeah, I would co-sign with you. I mean, it's not my number one, but I mean, it's been in my top three since 1984. That I can tell you. I
oh
still
yeah,
love this album. This one don't play no more. I just keep this around for reminiscing and
sure.
nostalgia. You always got to go back to the double live here. But
Ah,
yeah, Kiss Alive one, spectacular.
golly, I've loved that album since I was in elementary school.
Yeah, I wish I
You
could say.
know, I wanted to put it on the list, but I thought part of me kind of wanted to stay away from some of the usual suspects.
Yeah,
And I thought, well, if you wanted to put them, that's it's certainly good because I know we would riff off each other for this. But I
yeah,
mean, my gosh, yes, that has to be on the list of top live albums. I don't care who you are, that's got to be there. And for me, it certainly would be. But yeah, no, I'm glad one of us got to talk about that
yeah.
one.
Oh yeah. There's no
Ah,
way in the world I wouldn't talk about Kiss Alive one.
nope. But so now my next three choices are going to be probably a little more out of the box. So I'm not going to talk so much about some usual suspects so much because there's a few. We would talk about this off air. There's definitely a lot of usual suspects. So
Right.
if y'all are expecting us to bring up like Strangers in the Night or Live After Death or Double Live Gonzos, I don't know, maybe you're not expecting us to bring that up as a usual suspect. But anyway, maybe not on this show. But there'll probably be a part two or maybe even a part three because there's a lot of good live albums out there that I forgot that I had. Anyway, so my next pick, this one came out. I have to thank my good buddy Dave, from my friends Mike and Dave, in the 80s that we were the Bloodstone Gang, as I like to call us. Dave was the guy that said, "Hey, how about that band called Wasp? I heard about them and I think you might like them." And yeah, he was kind of on the cusp of checking out new bands and different stuff like that too. And he happened to come across this little guy. Let me
Oh,
let me move this thing out of the well, hang on. Let's just bring this up here. Live at the Inferno. And yes, if you see some scribbles on that, that is a signature from John Gallagher and Mark Gallagher. And yes, a guitar pick
sweet.
from Mark himself, which I after I saw them in Huntsville, Alabama, up at Fractal Brewery, so I'm going to give them a little shout out. But anyway, so he had, I think Dave had this on cassette, I think, and I borrowed it from him, and I eventually found this as a cutout at Camelot Music one time on vinyl, and I picked it up, and oh my gosh, the energy on this album is just ridiculous. If you've never seen Raven live, I implore you, I beg you, please go see Raven in concert. They have so much energy between the three of them, and it's just amazing how they make that sound so tight and so energetic and so much fun to listen to. But my gosh, this thing starts off with, of course, a little snippet of the song Live at the Inferno, goes into Take Control, classic track, Mind Over Metal, which was a surprise encore track they played at Huntsville, because when I saw them in Huntsville, they were doing the All for One album in its entirety. And then
Oh,
and then they did a couple of other tracks. They did a couple songs from the new album, Metal City, and then they did a couple of other tracks. And then at the end, they did Wiped Out, or they did no, hang on, no, they did no, it was Wiped Out. They did. It was Wiped Out album they did in its entirety. Their tour, they are now touring All for One. They were doing some shows of that. Wiped Out they did in its entirety. Wiped Out doesn't appear on the original album. It was like on a EP of some sort. But anyway, so they do that. Anyway, Mind Over Metal was a surprise thing that we got at the end of the track. Amazing version. Crash Bang Wallop. Enough said. Rock Until You Drop. Another classic Raven song right there. Faster Than the Speed of Light, of course, from Wiped Out. All for One. Let's see, Forbidden Planet, great track. Star Wars. They do a little medley here. Tyrant of the Airways, into Run Silent, Run Deep. Again, classic tracks. Crazy World, Let It Rip. They have a little guitar solo here called I Garbo, which I think it says I got a real big one. Anyway, Wiped Out. Let's see, Raw Power. I don't need your money. Break the Chain, Hell Patrol, Live at the Inferno. I'm just kidding. I'm tired just reading off all the tracks on this thing. It's just a powerful live performance, recorded in the mid '80s. John Gallagher was in fine form. Mark Gallagher was on fire. Wacko was just ridiculous on the drums. These guys were just amazing to listen to on this album. Yes, Wacko's not in the band. He's been gone since after the right before Nothing Exceeds Like Excess came out. But the new drummer, Mike Heller, is a beast behind the kit. Please, y'all, if you haven't seen Raven in concert and they come to your area, go see them. Go pick up their new album that just came out called All Hell's Breaking Loose. Yes, I'm giving them a plug. Live at the Inferno.
Excellent choice, John. Off air, we've talked about regrets, albums we wish we still had. I had that on cassette. I don't have it anymore. I think I gave it to a good longtime friend of mine named Joey Sitar. And I bet he still has it. I haven't seen him in a long time. Joey was probably still is a very big into metal. He loved Venom and Slayer. I mean, he was the first guy I met that listened to those bands. I think I gave him my Live at the Inferno. I know he had Stay Hard on vinyl. He had All for One on vinyl. And he was big into the vinyl, too, back in the early 80s. That is a very good live album. And, maybe I'm going to have to pick that up on CD now after your glowing endorsement. Ooh. I've never seen them live. But they do play Pennsylvania. I think they play like XL Live or somewhere like that. They come back around. Yeah, I'm going to listen to you and be prepared to be blown away.
Because they still bring it. I mean, they if anything, maybe almost better than ever. It's just they just really sounded so good. It just
nice.
Just really, really good and great guys. I mean, I got to meet the guys after the show because it was a small venue we saw them at.
Right.
And, it was just so cool to be able to go up to Mark and John, and they saw my t-shirt, which was they did a Kickstarter for their 2015 album called Extermination. Okay. And so I got in some of those perks with that, and they met the goals. So one of the stretch goals, I think, was they wanted to produce a special t-shirt for all the backers for the album. And so I got that with my I got that as part of my stuff. So it's it's like like 100% certified lunatic, Raven lunatic or something like that. And it had the whole Kickstarter thing and all that stuff on it. So John and Mark both see the shirt and they both very much approved. It meant a lot to me when Mark told me, "Oh my gosh, seeing this shirt, it's like just like your family."
Not awesome.
But yeah, here I'm about to go into Red Fox mode here. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, what was his wife's name? What was the woman's
Elizabeth.
name?
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth. No, but
Come to join
no,
Haggerty.
but I mean, they were so gracious with their time, and I felt bad for walking out because I wish I could have talked to them for a lot longer, but I didn't want to. I wanted to let them have their time and let other people have their time with them, and
Yeah.
I wanted to be kind of respectful, but I think they wanted to. I think Mark especially probably would have. I probably could have talked to him for hours if I wanted to, but no, just great guys. Can't say anything much more nicer things about them. They're just still an amazing band. They're still putting out amazing material 40 plus years after their debuts. For those who have not
Awesome.
listened to like Metal City and Extermination and the new album, I mean, my gosh, I mean that's just it's just amazing stuff. So there you go. My,
Awesome choice. Another band who was great back in the day, and they're making some of the best music of their career right now. I mean, you got Accept's doing the same thing.
Mhm.
Saxon's doing the same thing. You got
Oh, Carpe Diem is amazing. That is an awesome album.
yes, it is. I mean, oh my gosh, they're just yeah, it's crazy. I mean, yeah, you would never saw it coming, and now they're making this amazing material. Probably because they're not under those deadlines pushed by those record companies. They're doing it at their own pace. Let's put out something great for our longtime fans to know us by and to remember us by. Not just rest on our laurels. We're going to keep challenging ourselves. So great for Raven. That's awesome. And I
Yeah,
gotta go see him.
yeah. You won't be disappointed.
All right. I know I won't with your endorsement. So, all right. My number two. All right. If there's one artist that is defined by his live album, it's the one I'm going to choose right now. Um, I got into this album in the late 80s. I bought it on cassette in 1990. Yeah, I still have it. And he's had a great career, but he's first with the band Humble Pie and then his solo career, which has been long. And he's out touring right now after they thought he may never tour again because of he had a condition in his hands, but I guess it's healed up for him. One of the great unsung guitar players around. He still kills it live. And it's Frampton Comes Alive from Peter Frampton. This live album is just it's extraordinary. I mean, fantastic. The way it's recorded, it makes you feel like you're there, an appreciative audience. All these songs are played with such conviction and energy and passion. I mean, and they all sound like they should have been hits. I mean, they're so great. He had all these great hooks, but it didn't really get discovered until Frampton Comes Alive. This was the biggest selling live album in music history for a long time. I don't believe it is anymore. It might be
Um,
Bruce Springsteen, the E Street Band live 75 to 85, which is very good also. But yeah, he still does maybe 70 or 75% of this live. And just to show you, this is a shout out to a longtime family friend, Mr. Jim McGuire. He gave me this vinyl
ooh, yeah,
8 years ago.
nice.
This is the original vinyl, and which opens up from the top, which is interesting. Yeah, so yeah, I was just checking this out today at this vinyl. There's there's the original. One of
Yep.
them's still in the plastic, the other isn't. I don't know why that happened, but yeah, yeah, the original vinyl from
With
76.
that beautiful Les Paul.
Absolutely. Oh my God, you can make it sing.
and
Spectacular.
and talk.
Exactly. And two of the three singles from this album, and two of them hit top 10. Do You Feel Like We Do and Show Me the Way kept the talk box is very prominent on them. Superb songs. And Baby I Love Your Way was a big hit off this. Yeah, it might have hit the top 15, but oh my gosh, something's happening. Another one of the great show openers on a live album.
Mm-hmm.
Doobie was wonderful. Um, I'll Give You Money is awesome. Wins the acoustic part of the show when he does Winds of Change is fantastic. Excellent stuff on here. Here's the live, here's the CD too. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah,
I
I
all I
have a
want to be
CD of
is
it.
all I want to be is by your side. There's another great tearjerker acoustic ballad. Shine On's awesome. He does a cover of Jumpin' Jack Flash on here, which is very good. And Lines on My Face.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful song.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah. Oh, I forgot It's a Plain Shame and I Want to Go to the Sun. They're extraordinary also. But yeah. Frampton Comes Alive. It's my number 2
Yeah.
from 1976.
You gotta, that's another usual suspect, but
Yeah.
it's got to be talked about at some point, you know.
Mhm.
It's just a glowing album, and it's just a perfect live album. Yeah, gosh, I haven't listened to it in a long time, but it's another one I grew up with my brother and sister. They were both big into that one. So
Oh my
I was
gosh.
very familiar with, I remember hearing that whole talk box thing on do you feel like the way I do? And I'm just like, what? What's that? Yeah. And of course, all that the beautiful pictures on the inside. That's just great action shots. And yeah, that's good stuff right there.
I was mentioning the Sands Casino, now the Wind Creek Event Center. I've seen them 4 times,
Hmm.
and the first 3 times was at the event center. One time it was a co-headline with Cheap Trick. That
Hmm.
was probably the second best show I ever saw there.
Wow. There you go.
Uh, and he had Stanley Sheldon, who's right here, on bass for that show too. So when he
Right.
introduced the band, he said, "Yeah, he played on Frampton Comes Alive," and they gave him a huge ovation.
I want to say one of those guys isn't with us anymore. I can't remember. One
Bob
of the
Mayo,
I think Bob
Bob Mayo,
Mayo, yeah, Bob Mayo passed away, I think. But
yeah, Bob Mayo passed away.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure about John Simos, who
Yeah,
played the drums.
I don't remember either,
Yeah, Bob
but
Mayo passed. But oh yeah, but yeah, I saw him 4 times. Another time was at the Kirby Center in Wilkes-Barre.
yeah.
He always killed it.
What do
Always
you
kills it live.
what do you think Sergeant Pepper's killed his career?
I think that part of it. I think part of it was that, and part of it was coming out with the I'm In You album so close to the live album. They put that album out the year after, when Frampton Comes Alive was still riding the charts.
Mm-hmm.
And between the material on there, the song I'm In You, the bare chested cover, I think, that set him up for, at that time, you could say career suicide. I mean, because he put out another album after that. I Can't Stand It Anymore. I Can't Stand It No More was the single. Uh, I think it might have been Breaking All the Rules. Might have been the album. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not
I
sure.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of his stuff, but I think it. Yeah, I think that did hurt him, and it's a shame because he wasn't just a pretty boy. He was a talent,
He was a real
a
talented
talent,
guy. Yeah.
and still a talent. And by the way, let me just say, Brampton Comes Alive 2 from 1995. He
Mm-hmm.
doesn't he doesn't repeat any of the songs. Well, there's a double version that has some of the songs that were on the first one. But if you get the single disc version, it's nearly as good. It's just that the songs are newer. The songs weren't hits.
Yeah.
But it's very good. If you could get your hands on a copy of that, it's definitely worth the money. It's very good. And by
Okay.
this point, he's just playing theaters. But oh gosh, but he's still playing and singing so well. And
Yeah.
the best songs from the 80s and 90s are really good. So
Yeah.
maybe not classics, but you listen to them, there's quality of them. They're very well done. So
Right.
yeah, Frampton Comes Alive.
All right. Again, solid pick. Again, you got to include those. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I already mentioned some usual suspects, but Yeah, we'll talk about those another time. So
Yeah.
now I'm gonna bring up a band that is not actually my last two are probably not going to be so as well known. So, but these are just really deep personal favorites for me. So this first one that I'm going to talk about was recorded in 1993, and this is almost 30 years old. Um, it's crazy to say 1993, 30 years ago.
I know.
Anyway, but this was actually down in Peter Kerr's neck of the woods, recorded at the Black Stump Festival in Applin, North Southwest Australia. So I don't know where any of that is, and I know Peter does not know of this band. But check out this crazy cover. This is a band called Mortification.
Okay.
This album is called Live Planetarium. Now, the original CD is a little different. The original cover was different. This was a recent reissue done on vinyl, and I think CDs also have this as well. Mortification is a Christian thrash. They've kind of amalgamation. They do a little bit of power. They do a little groove, grind, death, thrash, garage, punk, all kinds of things. You know, there's like they don't keep themselves in one style. This album was featured a lot more of their grind and thrash and death kind of stuff from their first three albums. Um, I was introduced to this band in 1998 by a guy that I had met who was he was into this band, but he would also introduce me to other Christian bands like Tourniquet, like trying to think of some of the other ones. I can't think of them off the top of my head. Zion, I think, was another one. There was another. I think there's another one. I just can't remember who it is. Anyway, but Mortification, when I first popped this CD in and started listening to this was when I was like, okay, I think I found my new band that I dig. You know, I was like really into that. I was really into that kind of stuff, and I liked the fact that they were a Christian band because I was very young in my faith at the time, and so I was trying to find stuff that still could ease up the rocker in me, the heavy metal kid in me that still wanted to come out, and was kind of suppressed because I was kind of getting away from all that stuff. So what does this album feature? So Grind Planetarium, like it is like the title says, it's got a kind of a grindy kind of groove, but tight, very, very tight. Let me before I even go into there. So the band members here on this album, you have bassist, singer, main songwriter Steve Rowe, who's carried the torch of the band. He's no longer been able to play due to various health issues. He had a terrible bout with leukemia in the mid 90s. And he's just had numerous other things that's happened to him health wise over the years. So he's not able to play anymore. He's not able to go out to perform anymore. But he has a good 15, 16 albums or so of material with, from over the years. But anyway, Grind Planetarium, very grind, very that kind of grindcore kind of sound. A song called Distarnished Priest, kind of a slow, kind of a slow groove, but then he gets this gallop throughout the song. So it kind of goes back and forth with that. Brutal Warfare from the first album, just kind of thrashy, right straight ahead at you. Destroyer Beholds, another song is kind of a thrashy, speedy kind of song. Inflamed, which was written by the guitar player Michael Carlisle, which he's no longer in the band. But this was a kind of a slow groove that also would get some gallop going on. The drum gallop here was brought to you by a guy named Jason Sherlock, who was a monster drummer. He would leave after this album. Scrolls of the Megaloth, which had as a death metal, very thrashy feel to it, but just an amazing track. Time Crusaders, another very fast-paced song. From the Valley of the Shadows, another song written by the guitar player Michael Carlisle. Again, kind of a little bit of a balance of mostly speed and thrash metal. Human Condition, another thrashy song. Um, you have two very, very quick little short thrashy, just mosh till you drop kind of songs called the Majestic Infiltration of Order, which basically is just him saying God rules a number of times, and it's just this it's just really fast groove. This Momentary Affliction, again, it's like it's just saying crush this momentary pain, and it's just this really fast. Mortification was known for doing these kind of very short, but just these punch you in the face kind of riffs that just great for a quick little mosh. So anyway, Mortification, I've always been wanting to do kind of a thing on their catalog because I've loved the band and always have, and one of these days I'm going to do something with their catalog. But yeah, so there's something that maybe not a lot of people will know. Mortification, Live Planetarium, Live Planetarium. They have also they've done a few other live albums after that. But this was probably, to me, was probably my favorite of. And the original CD has a cover version from another Christian band called Bloodgood, and they did a song called Black Snake on that album, which on this reissue, that song is omitted, probably due to licensing reasons and stuff like that. But they do a really good version of Black Snake. Steve Rowe's voice there is this, that kind of that Cookie Monster in the throat vocal kind of thing, which is a lot of what this album has. But anyway, the Black Stump Festival, it sounds like there's only 100 people at this thing. That doesn't sound like it's not a huge crowd or anything, but the energy's still there, and it's a really, to me, it was my introduction to a band that 4 years later I'm still listening to quite a bit, and I like them quite a lot. So Mortification, Live Planetarium.
Nice.
So again, trying to bring in something maybe a little different that nobody knows. So
right. So I'll definitely check it out. Unless I don't know it, but definitely work. Definitely going to check it out based on your high endorsement.
There you go.
Excellent. All right. So my number one, I got into this band in 1989. I still love them to this day. They're my favorite band next to Little Feat. I've seen them 7 times. They're no longer performing as a band. In fact, most of them have passed away. But this was the cassette that I bought when I was 18. This is the Allman Brothers Band at Fillmore East. I've cried so many times watching these guys live. They have 3 of the best guitar players, actually maybe 4 of the best guitar players that have ever lived in this band. The originals, Dwayne Allman, Dickie Betts, and then later on you had Warren Haynes, and you had Derek Trucks. These guys are spectacular. I think Greg Allman is one of the best blues singers ever, white, black, whatever. Fantastic blues singer, a heck of a writer.
Mm-hmm.
Dickie Betts was an amazing composer. His instrumentals will make you cry.
Yes.
A couple. I was talking about on a show I did on 1973 on Grant's Rock Warehouse. We had a panel of us talking about our favorite songs from 1973, and my second favorite song was Jessica. Jessica is an amazing song. It was a very big song on AOR back in the day, and it actually charted in the top 100. But this is before they made it big. Yeah. This was at Fillmore East. This was after their first 2 albums, the self-titled and Idlewild South, respectively. The first album was very bluesy, and they were still blues oriented on Idlewild South, but they were adding different dimensions to their sound. And Dickie Betts was becoming more prominent as a writer. This is at the Fillmore Concerts. This came out in 1992. This is a double CD. The album I showed here, you can still buy this as a single CD. You can still get it very reasonable too. But this is a wonderful album. I mean, this is the 2 CD version. This is excellent too, Fillmore Concerts. But if you want to go to the original, oh my gosh, Statesboro Blues still gets played heavy on your AOR station. That was an old Muddy Waters track. Done Somebody Wrong is another great blues track. Then you have Stormy Monday. That's an old cover. They stretch it out to 10 minutes long. You Don't Love Me. This is where the Almonds jam.
Mm.
And when they jam, they're like nobody else. There's a lot of great jam bands out there, but for my money, no one could jam like the Allman Brothers in 1970 or in 2014 when they played their last shows. This is spectacular. It's a 19-minute version on here. Then if you go into side 2 or record 2, it opens with the Scorch, and I'm just reading the songs from here, but Hot Lana is spectacular. Fantastic instrumental. One thing about this was a instrumental that wasn't just a Dickie Betts right. They all contributed to this song. And most of their instrumentals had peaks and valleys. They would be very emotional, they'd be very fast, very slow. Here, this is just riveting. It's like a steam engine coming at you. It's like a locomotive. The playing on here is spectacular.
Mm.
As is the playing on the next instrumental, next track, In Memory of Elizabeth Reed. What an amazing song. A lot of people would say this is their best song. I will not argue it with you. Wonderful track. This is another fantastic composition by Dickie Betts, perhaps his finest. It all depends who you talk to. I mean, a lot of people would say it's In Memory of Elizabeth Reed. Then we get into a 20-some minute version of Whip and Post to end it. Whip and Post is one of their best.
Untouchable.
Oh, it is untouchable. Amazing. So many different so much ebb and flow on this track. The playing is spectacular throughout this album. Some people call this band a Southern rock album. No. Or a Southern rock band, the Allman Brothers. No, they're not a Southern rock band. They were a musical melting pot. They could do anything. They could do gospel. They could do blues. They could do jazz. They could do rock. They could do country. And as time went on, they kept adding more to their melting pot. Yes, they had some down times. They did a lot of drugs, which forced a divide in the band for a long time. And then they came back in 1990 with the superb Seven Turns and the Shades of Two Worlds album. Those albums were very good too. But as a live album, they put out a lot of live albums and they're all very good. But at Fillmore East,
Nothing beats that. Yeah.
nothing beat the gem.
No, one of my it's not on that album, but one of I had my brother was played with a bunch of guys, and one of the songs that they jammed on that I picked up on that I learned from them was No Way Out.
No Way Out, which is on Eat a Peach, which is a half studio, half live album.
Right.
That was actually the first Allman Brothers album I bought.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eat a Peach. Eat a Peach is like music from heaven to me.
Yeah.
And so is that Fillmore East. Oh, One Way Out. That was an old Elmore James song, I believe.
I think so.
Yeah.
I can't remember who wrote it, but boy, I'll tell you what, playing it with those guys, man, that was so much fun. You know, I think I just tried to figure out what can I play while I'm jamming with you guys, because these guys were really top-notch guys, you know, from that my brother knew, and I think the one guy just took a lot of the slide stuff, and I just tried to pick up like something wherever I could and just play whatever rhythm stuff. But boy, that was, man. And you want to know about Dwayne Allman as far as what he does in Muscle Shoals.
Yes.
Dwayne Allman did a lot of studio work at Muscle Shoals up at the Fame Studios, and you know, I can remember seeing tapes that had his name on it, you know, up in one section when I got to go in that studio for a little bit. So it's another beautiful thing about living in Alabama. I can actually go to these, you know, like Muscle Shoals, where there's some amazing music that came out of that studio, out of both those studios that's up there, and you know, it's like, man, one day I'm gonna actually record something there. I would love to.
That'd be awesome.
That would be really awesome.
You know, Dwayne played on a lot of those big hits that Aretha Franklin had back in the day. That's him on Respect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now that one wasn't that song itself wasn't recorded on at Muscle Shoals. There was a couple songs that were recorded in Muscle Shoals that she did, but
okay.
I don't remember. unlike the whole album, she only did like 2 songs there.
Okay, I didn't know that.
But yeah, I can't remember which. I think it was on the album with I think it's on the same. No, it's not the same album with Chain of Fools. It's on another album that I can't think of the name of it for the
Okay.
life of me. But anyway, that's a whole nother show right there. But yeah, yeah, there's so much stuff to get into with Dwayne Allman. Boy, that's just he was one of those definitely taken way too quickly from us.
He was, and what was sad was we lost Barry Oakley a year later,
Almost in the same area.
in the same in a motorcycle accident. A fantastic bass player. You
Yeah.
talk about one way out. His bass playing is
It's
way up on front and up on
way all over that
front.
thing.
Oh yeah, and then Mountain Jam for me to Peach. I mean, God, they all get a chance to be showcased on there. Oh my gosh, what a rhythm section
Yeah.
with Butch Trucks, JMO, and Barry Oakley. Oh gosh, and JMO's still with us.
Yeah.
He's still out there playing. Oh my God,
Mm.
wonderful.
Ah, my brother will love us talking about that. That's good. So,
Right.
all right. So my last
Oh, I
pick of
lost you.
whoop. So while he's fixing his headphone here, uh there you go.
I punched
So
it so hard that the fork came out.
whoops.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay. So my last pick is actually a band that I discovered in the mid to late 80s. They had one or maybe 2 albums, and then they just kind of vanished. Between, the stories could go where it was just the music business. They couldn't get a singer, maybe a touring band, but the drummer would go on in late 80s, and he would join this little prog metal band called Fate's Warning. His name is Mark Zonder. Well, he was a part of this little band called Warlord. Warlord, the original Deliver Us album was an album that came out in about 1982, 1983. It's like one of the first Metal Blade releases ever in their discography. I was like, they made number 5 or something like that. 6-song album of just absolute, and every song is like a little bit different. You can definitely hear the new album influences, maybe some UFO, some other classic rock, some prog rock, but they just gel these influences together. And Bill Samas, rest in peace. He just crafted some amazing tracks of epic metal, I've been known to be called. So this is a DVD from 2013. They never got to play. They never really got to do any gigs because after Bill would quit the music business, and he took a different road in life. He did musical projects in the 90s with his wife. And then in 2002 he got together with Mark Zonder and with Joachim Tams from Hammerfall, crafted an album called Rising Out of the Ashes. And I think they got to play maybe a show or two at maybe like Vakken or some other show. I don't know. But anyway, so 2013, all of a sudden we're starting to get rumblings that they're coming out with another album. And they did one, it was called The Holy Empire. This time they were doing some festival shows in Europe. They were absolutely huge in Greece. And Live in Athens documents this. So this is the full show. Also has the CD of the show as well, but it has the whole filmed version here. Now, who did they get to recruit as because they all had like pseudonyms in the original band. So
Okay.
Bill Samas was Destroyer. Mark Zonder was the Thunder Child. The vocalist went by Damian King. I can't remember what they would call the bass player, and there's a keyboardist. I think the keyboardist had Sentinel in there somewhere. but I can't remember the bass player, so I can't remember what nickname they gave him. But anyway, so who's playing on this? So of course you have Bill Samus, main guitar player and composer, Mark Zonder on drums, fabulous drummer. You know, if you guys want to listen to something current of his, pick up an album called A to Z. Has Ray Alder from Fates Warning as on vocals. Wonderful, wonderful album. Philip Bino, you on bass. You would probably know him if you've seen Steve Vai in concert. He's Steve Vai's bass player. Well, he was also associated with him with these guys too. He's also on that A to Z album. Awesome, awesome album. He was so thrilled when I showed this album to him. I just forgot to get him to sign it. Anyway, Paolo Viani on accompanying guitars. Angelo Vafietas, I'm going to butcher his name, so I apologize. He played keyboards, and the singer here, Giles Lavery, on vocals. I was listening to this again earlier, and I'm just listening to this on headphones, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, the crowd was so receptive. You know, you're hearing all these like little musical passages, and you're hearing the crowd going, whoa, 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 and that's just like the drums and the guitar lines, and they're like singing along with this thing, and you hear this all throughout the album, and I'm thinking, and it's bringing tears in my eyes because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what could that have sounded like from the stage? You know, I don't, especially for somebody who never got to play this stuff live. What did that have to sound like to these guys? So, anyway, but I want to show, this is wrong way. This is a vinyl version of it. So you have this beautiful live shot of it. And you get the crowd. It's just a huge crowd here. I don't know how many people are at this thing, but this is a kind of a reissue that had a bonus album of some bonus tracks and stuff of that nature, some from like other shows, demo versions, some demo stuff that they worked on that the Bill Samus worked on in the 90s. Here on this album, they play the Deliver Us album in its entirety, is all 6 songs. They play some bonus tracks. There were songs that were featured on one of the Metal Massacres, one of the very early Metal Massacres, called Mrs. Victoria. They play that. They do there's an EP, like a single, like a 12-inch single they released that had songs called Lost and Lonely Days and Aliens. Great tracks. And then they do some stuff from the Holy Empire album, as well as the Rising from the Ashes album. So on this particular one, you get City Walls of Troy and Killzone, which is from Holy Empire. Great tracks. War in Heaven, which is one of my absolute favorite tracks. That was from a previous project he did called Lordian Guard, in which he used basically a drum program for the drums. But there's this sequence in the guitar solo. Every time I hear it, I'm just like, I'm just air guitaring, because it's just so emotional, and it just brings to that crescendo of the guitar solo, and it's just like, oh, just great. Just, I love it. It's so epic. Winds of Thor is another one from that project that they did on Rising from the Ashes. Lucifer's Hammer, another that actually was another song from the Deliver Us. They waited till the end of the show to play that. Achilles' Revenge is another well-known track that's loved in Greece, done from the Rising from the Ashes album. Again, how to describe this? There's a lot of, you can definitely hear the Nawabum influences. You hear prog rock. You hear a little bit of all kinds of different stuff here. But every song there's just this beautiful epicness about it. You know, Deliver Us is like a march. You know, deliver us from you. I'm not even going to try to butcher the lyrics, because Bill Samus will haunt me in my dreams now. But Winter Tears, almost like a ballad, but it's just a beautiful sounding ballad. Child of the Dam just comes right at you. Just a strong gallop song. Penny for a Poor Man, another epic kind of feel song, just a Black Mass, very doomy feeling. Um, again, Lucifer's Hammer, or yeah, Lucifer's Hammer. This driving riff, this simple riff. It's basically he's hitting the high E note on the sixth string, bow, and he's doing that John Sykes startup kind of thing. He's just sliding down, but it's just this groove that goes with it, and it's just a banging song. Uh, again, there's like three main studio albums. They did a live album called "And Now the Cannons of Destruction Have Begun," which was basically them playing to. There was an accompanying videotape that came with it, and it's just them playing in a empty rehearsal studio with like little theatrical things going on around them. But again, it's just they just couldn't keep a singer in those early days, and yeah, the music business just kind of frustrated Bill, and he just decided to move on. And then Mark Zonder got called on to play in Fate's Warning, and the rest is history. He would play with them till early 2000s, and then he would leave the band. Um, but a fabulous band. I can't sing the praises of Warlord enough. It's an early video of mine where I paid tribute to Bill Samus on my channel here. It's just one of those bands that nobody really knows about, and the few that do, they echo my sentiment here. So yeah, the DVD of it, Live in Athens 2013, just an amazing, just to again, because you're in that crowd, because the crowd's just so into it. They're singing every line, they're singing every musical passage. I don't think they were singing the guitar solos, but boy, if they could, they probably would. But just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful album.
Nice. Excellent.
So
Another
there you
one I gotta
go.
check out.
So there you go.
Yep.
There you got it,
Nice.
folks. That you got 10 solid live albums here. Some that you probably know, and maybe some that you don't. It's like you really need to check these out. I don't think we're going to go into honorable mentions, because I think we could stretch this out to another show at some point.
Oh yeah.
So we'll come back to this and revisit this another time. But as I said in the beginning of the show, list your favorites. Talk about the let's talk some live albums. Are y'all surprised we didn't say Double Live Assassins or The Sting or Live in the Raw? We just did Wasp Wednesday, so hopefully y'all weren't shocked that we didn't talk about that. But anyway, John, do you have any parting thoughts you want to throw out there? Anything we need to be checking out and watching, or anything along those lines?
Oh yeah. Yesterday, my co-captain and we were part of a wonderful panel with our friends Joe Beck. Check out his channel, wasting some time with Average Joe, and of course Mr. Peter Kerr. On Rock Daydream Nation, we did our top 2 favorite Van Halen albums. We're getting some nice traction on there, some excellent comments. Thank you all so much. If you haven't watched it yet, check it out. We bring the bacon. We did a great job.
Yeah, I just want to say something. I was the only one who gave any love to Van Hagar.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. But you know what? He did pick the best album by Van Hagar by far, in my opinion. So just gotta put that out there. But yeah, we put that out. And if you watch Bicycle Legs channel, he's got a fantastic channel as well. I'm gonna be part of his Bicycle Legs Discovering Rush series. I believe this coming Saturday we're gonna have the show that Bicycle Legs and I did. We were going to talk about Rush's 10th album, Grace Under Pressure. So check that out if you're a big Rush fan, and definitely check out Bicycle Legs channel. He's got a lot of great stuff. Yep. I mean, great guy too. But he gives you a lot of stuff that we wouldn't normally talk about, but it's all great stuff. I mean, guy's wealth of musical knowledge and very diverse. So we got those coming up. I'm going to be doing some more shows on Grants Rock Warehouse. We're going to be talking about in the One and Done series next week. I believe we're talking about Shadow King, which was a super group with Lou Graham on lead vocals, Vivian Campbell on lead guitar, Bruce Turgan on bass, and Kevin Valentine on drums. That'll be July 20th, I believe, and then July 28th, I'm doing another show with the group on Grants Rock Warehouse. And just to let you know, it's Byron Bolt, and Ernesto Ramos, Grant Arthur, of course, the host. I'm in there. Sometimes they bring in Daryl Collins, AC, also known as DC Toontime. But we're going to be talking about the Hughes Thrall album.
Ooh,
so,
okay.
yes. So we're going to be talking about that one. I believe that's July 28th. So, yeah, we got a lot of stuff lined up. And, of course, John and I got a lot of great stuff lined up, too.
Yep. Yeah, so gosh, and I won't let too many cats out of the bag with this one, but yeah, we got some. We're going to go into a lot of discographies, and we're going to go into some other interests of ours that that we both have a love for. So yeah, we're gonna really diversify the channel a little bit here. Or at least our show here is going to really become pretty diversified, which is awesome. I love that part about what we do. As far as me, I was just on. We did John and I did a blues show with on Grants Rock Warehouse.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. I always love talking anytime I could talk a little bit about Delta blues is always a good thing. We finally finished the April Wine series.
Yes.
With the ranking. Now granted that show took, I mean, we weren't doing shows like every week like we did Wasp Wednesday, but we stretched out, went out, and we were able to put some good thought into a lot of those albums, and it was fun getting to rank the catalog and kind of watch Grant cry a few times. Anyway, but let's see. I'm going to be recording something with the Contrarians tomorrow. Something I haven't been on the Contrarians in a while, so this will be nice to return to the Contrarians. We're going to talk about our favorite EPs. So that'll be a lot of fun. Let's see. I've got a few things lined up with Peter Kerr on Rock Daydream Nation, where there's going to be an In Defense Of. We're going to talk another about. I got on another album chat that we're going to talk about. So that's a good one. I want to give that away. We got a rock postcards that eventually we'll come up with. That's one I still need to take the time to listen to. So I've got those, and that's pretty much the only things I've got lined up. I don't have anything else lined up with anybody else at this point. So that's pretty much all that I got from this end here. So for my co-captain, John the Music Nut, John Clauser, Johnny Metal, the Metal Dad, we brought you some great live albums to talk about in the comments, and we will see you next week with something maybe a little different or maybe more of the same. We'll find out, but tune in next week and we'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Take care.